Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, was a game that symbolizes the biggest downside of owning digital releases of video games. In 2014, Scott Pilgrim was delisted from all platforms due to trouble with licensing issues. That was the end of that Pilgrim's journey. Or so we thought. Nearly a decade later, Scott Pilgrim is back on the market, not only digitally, but physically as well. As somebody who's read the graphic novels, seen the movie, played the original game, and even the board game, although you needed friends for that one. Anyway, I was absolutely ecstatic to take a trip down memory lane. Everyone can now revisit this 8-bit brawler and relive his glory days. But does Scott Pilgrim a year later still hold up to that title? My name is Varno Von Harris, and this is my review of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. In case you haven't read the books or seen the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, 23-year-old Scott Pilgrim is a slacker living in Toronto who begins dating a mysterious girl named Ramona Flowers after declaring to defeat her 7 evil exes. If you want more on the story, I recommend reading the books or at the least watching the movie for context. If you expect to get it from the game, you're going to be disappointed as it does not follow either the film or book narratives here. Then again, it is an arcade style beat 'em up, so the story isn't the main concern here. The gameplay is really where Scott Pilgrim begins to shine. You get to play as 7 different characters with their own movesets from their own special abilities and combos. Money plays a key role in this game as you use it to buy food and items to help level up your character, granting access to new moves and stats that consist of defense, speed, willpower, and strength. Playing Scott Pilgrim alone is okay, but playing it with friends is, believe me, 10 times better. Performing combos together with 4 of your best mates, tag teaming waves of enemies and bosses is not only easier, but it's also a boatload of fun. It's almost as if the game is meant to be played like this. If you want to get the most out of this game, multiplayer is definitely the way to go, hands down. Other game modes besides the story include dodgeball, survival horror, boss rush, and even a little bit of battle royale in the mix. There are some elements that I hope would have been added to this remaster. In item shops, it would be helpful to know exactly what you're buying. Items don't tell you what stats go up upon purchase, so it ends up mostly being trial and error, hoping you bought something worth its price. Parrying is also an element you unlock down the line, but it's very finicky when it wants to work. Once enemies land a punch on you, they'll just begin to wallop you with blows with no ways to defend yourself. The only way to counter that is to predict when an enemy is going to hit you and parry. However, it's much harder to do so when there are a ton of enemies crowding the screen. Combos aren't necessarily easy to pull off either, as especially when using the analog stick versus the D-pad. It's really tricky to get the hang of. It takes practice, I'll give it that. Don't even get me started on the soundtrack for this game. I can rant on for hours, but Anime Noguchi performs astounding pieces that capture the element of an 8-bit RPG beat 'em up. The tempo, the beats, the music flow are nearly flawless as fists are flying all over the screen. I'm not saying every song is memorable, but for sure hats off to Anime Noguchi because there's some bangers in here. You definitely will remember Another Winter. Throughout the game, I've encountered some glitches where I would get knocked out the map, or me and my co-op partner, when we would lose most of our lives, would be stuck floating as ghosts. These happen often on rare occasions, so it really didn't disrupt my experience that often. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is an absolute must-have if beat 'em ups are your type of game. The action-packed co-op mixed with Anime Noguchi's soundtrack sets the mood perfectly. Although it takes some time to learn and nail down some combos, once you get the hang of things, you're sure to have a smashing time. Alright, that's it from me. Thank you guys for sitting through my review of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. If you want to check out my final verdict, head on over to the Xbox Tavern.com and check it out. This has been Varno Von Harris, and I'll see you guys later.